Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the UpSet podcast. We're so happy that you tuned in on this Sunday evening. Of course, you know I'm never going to show up here alone. I've got the best crew in all the land with me. What's up, everybody?
Happy Sunday.
Hello,
everyone.
Hi, happy Sunday. We're happy to have three of you weren't here last week. We're happy to have you guys back.
Crazy, right? My goodness.
Good to see your faces.
good to be back.
Yeah, how was it? Of course, everyone wants to know. We heard a lot about this Hampton.
Yeah, that conference was phenomenal. Oh my
Okay.
goodness. It was phenomenal. Yeah.
I will never miss one again.
Yeah, I know a lot of our pastors went, or a good representation, I think, went. So that's great. How does it compare to Pelt? Because that's what I.
I don't like to compare.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I will still go to Pelt,
ball game.
but I need to go to Hampton.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Because if you think about it, one is in the middle of the year, one's at the end of the year.
Yeah,
So-
I think they both serve a great purpose.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Oh, let's say hello to some of our viewers. Hello, Rochelle. Yes, I had a good week. I hope the others did. Sup, Rodney? Good afternoon.
Pastor Rod.
All right.
Yep.
Brother Mike Williams. Hello. Hello, Miss Daphne. Yeah, she says she hopes to go sometime. And it's for anyone who wants to go, right? It's not just
Right.
for.
If you love music and if you love preaching, you got to be there.
Yeah.
Rodney said it's comparing Polk and the Hampton convention is like comparing baseball and basketball. It's just too
At least it's a sport, you know.
All right. Hi, Nicole.
You were such a large number of pastors from everywhere, all faiths, you know, and it's nice coming together, singing and praising God and learning. I went to some of the seminars that were really great, but it was phenomenal experience. I've been going many years, even before I became a pastor. So
Okay.
it's always very nice.
Yeah, because in Virginia. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Virginia.
Very nice. Speaking of people gathering and great time, I mean, I saw a lot of camp meetings jump starting throughout.
And to
Especially
be honest, I didn't hear, although there were like 3 or 4 camp meetings going on, everybody was talking about one camp meeting. And that Southwest region in Texas.
Yeah.
yeah, because they started
Dynamic, amazing, explosive weekend with some sermons that have created conversations across the country on social media about what the church needs to do. So good stuff from Texas.
Nice. Oh, hi, Dad. Sorry. Yeah, I heard Wintley Phipps turned it out. They said, yeah, I haven't listened. I said I want to go back to hear all the sermons because I heard a lot about Wintley Phipps, John Trusty, former AEC.
Oh man.
Myron Edmonds. Those were some of the names that were being thrown out there about good messages. So there'll be a lot for, hey, Wanda, there'll be a lot for people to if they want a good preaching playlist, I think.
How many days did they do?
Southwest?
Mm-hmm.
I think Wednesday to Sunday.
Yeah, I think it was Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday to Sunday. And they power packed it, man. There was a lot going on, I have to say. And, we
have a couple of AEC speakers there, I heard. No? Okay.
I know South Central, Jamon Jimerson, Pastor Jimerson
Okay, that was
spoke.
South Central. Okay.
Just past Sabbath. So shout out. I heard that was powerful as well.
Mm-hmm.
Something about camp meeting. People just, those sermons hit different. I don't know, And of course, we have our camp meeting coming up. Hey, Duke, good to see you. At the end of this month, and we'll be sharing a little bit more about that. I mean, we're just doing a couple of days, so
a couple.
1.5, 1.25.
Yeah, 1.5.
24 hours is all you get.
Okay, thank you. So South Atlantic, theirs continues on until next weekend. Okay, so they're back to that.
2 weeks.
Okay, to a full.
So they're 10 days then.
Maybe. I don't know if they started
Friday.
Oh, they started Friday.
Okay.
All right, South Atlantic. It's great. I love it that everything's like virtual now, so you can literally like go to any camp meeting you want to. You can listen to any camp meeting you want to, so that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. What else has been going on besides conventions and camp meetings?
Well, the headline that topped it for me were the 4 Columbia children who survived the airplane crash.
Mm-hmm.
They survived in the jungle for 40 days.
40. Oh my goodness.
There were 4 children. The oldest was 13 years old, and she took care of the other 3. The youngest was 1 year old.
Oh my goodness.
They said, well, you know, when the plane crashed, the crash killed their mother and the pilot, but they survived. You know, if you Google it, you know, Columbia and, you know, Columbia tragedy. But they searched and searched and searched for those kids. They did not give up. And they did everything. They flew airplanes over the area where the plane had crashed and dropped leaflets and dropped food. And they had no idea where these kids were.
Wow.
But what's amazing is that all 4 of them survived. And when you read the story, it's amazing how what the 13-year-old knew what to do. And I thought about you, Patrick, because it sounded like she was a pathfinder. She knew what shrubs and what fruits to eat and not eat. And so she guided the other 3, you know, through the jungle until they were found by the military. When you read the story, it's really heartwarming. And I said, there's something about that 40 days.
I was about to say again, that number 40. Yeah.
Hey, y'all coming back from Hampton, that's going to preach right there.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of sermons preached about this story. And you look at it, it truly is miraculous.
Yeah. I can see this becoming a movie, a documentary, because that's impressive. Very impressive. Anything else? I mean, I know there's so much going on. It's hard to pick out.
I'm thinking about that Canada smog that came over. Oh my God.
Listen, I was like, what is happening?
My brother wrote me, took a picture and was like, this is apocalyptic.
When have you ever remembered looking at the sun, literally looking at the sun, directly at the sun in daylight?
Was it
so much smog that it filtered the sun?
Wow. Was it just on the East Coast?
Primarily,
yeah.
Came down.
Yeah,
Canada's
I see.
burning up.
There was Ronnie's asking about the I-95 bridge collapse in Philly. I did see that there was some type overpass or something that.
There was a truck underneath it that was burning, and I think it burned through the asphalt up on the top.
Wow.
And that
were there any injuries?
I didn't read any injuries, but I know there's a whole lot of traffic not being able to pass 95 Philly.
Yeah, they're gonna have to repair that quickly or come up with another plan.
Yeah,
major highway. Okay. Wow. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I mean, there's so much we could talk about, but the topic we have this evening is of utmost importance. Because as we shared last week, June is Men's Health Month. Yay. And and actually
you want to be healthy.
And actually this week, the 12th through the 18th is Men's Health Week. So we're starting the week off, helping you start the week off, emphasizing something very important, men's health. We need our men. We need you guys. And so we really wanted to take some time to emphasize ways that men can prioritize their health. And of course, you know, we know a little something, but when it comes to really sharing some things, we thought it might be best to bring in a professional. Right?
Look what Daphne said. Daphne said, men, go to the doctor. We can go home now.
Right.
If it was only that simple, right? But that is a major part of it. But we do want to welcome our special guest with us this evening.
Welcome, Dr. Westney.
Westney. Hi, Dr. Westney.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Could I just ask a question to the group? am I speaking to Allegheny East clergy, or am I talking to? I'm just not sure who the audience is.
You want to know your audience? Okay, so
it's everybody.
You're talking to everybody, everywhere. We have people listening from all over the United States and beyond. No particular group. We're out open to the World Wide Web right now. So
okay.
So
well,
men, women.
So we don't know what kind of questions
okay
you might get.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank Allegheny East. I want to thank you, Pastor Patrick Graham and Tasha, for the opportunity to speak. It is Men's Health Month, and I think this is a very, very important topic. And so I welcome and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to share a little bit. My hope is that throughout this next few minutes, you will find out something that you didn't know before. And that's my hope and prayer. We start with a word of prayer, if that's okay.
Sure.
Let's bow our heads. Our God, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for these wonderful vessels, these bodies that you have created and gifted us with. Please help us as we try and learn more about them, especially as men. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 I have a few slides that I would like to present, and you can go on to the next one. So it's Men's Health. We know what the date is. When I was charged with this topic, I did some research and looked around on the internet, and so my hope is I'm going to. There's the article in the Washington Post, which was put out by Tara Parker Pope and Caitlin Gilbert, and it summarized and answered some of the questions that were posed to me with regards to men's health. And so I'm going to go through some of that, and then we'll talk about other sources. A lot of the sources of which we'll be speaking are coming from. It comes from the CDC. It provides lots of information on men's health also. But as we mentioned before, there's a silent health crisis in men's health, which is shortening the lifespans of fathers, husbands, brothers, and sons. For years, the conventional wisdom has been that a lack of sex-specific health research mainly hurts women and gender minorities. While these concerns are real, a closer look at longevity data tells a more complicated story. Across the lifespan, from infancy to the teen years to midlife and old age, the risk of death at every age is higher for boys and men than for girls and women. Next slide. Longevity gap. As you know, there is a longevity gap. We always knew that women live longer than men, but it's actually been measured. The result is a growing longevity gap between men and women in the United States. Life expectancy in 2021 was 79.1 years for women and 73.2 years for men. It's a 5.9-year difference. It's the largest gap in a quarter century. The longevity gap between men and women is a global phenomenon. Although sex differences and data on the ages of greatest risk vary around the world and are influenced by cultural norms, record keeping, and lots of geopolitical factors, war, climate change, and poverty. Across the board, throughout the world, it's been found and documented, as the next slide will show. Next slide, that women last longer than men, or live longer than men. I actually, while I was looking at the Bible, and I know I'm speaking with a few pastors here, so I have to be very careful. But in Genesis, after the fall of man, I noticed this in my perusing the Bible on this topic. God said to the woman after the fall, He said, "I will greatly multiply thy sorrow, thy thy conception. In sorrow shalt thou bring forth children, and the desire shall be to thy husband." If you go, that's Genesis 3 and verse 16. If you look at Genesis 3 and verse 19, it's a little bit different. And I want to point out that difference. That in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust thou shalt return. I just wanted to point out, it's a little bit different what God said to the woman. He said she's going to have difficulty with conceiving, but he said to the man, you came from the dust, you're going back to the dust. And so it's a little bit different. And I just wanted to make that. So I don't want to say that, God has it out for men, but it follows. So the important thing is for us to realize that we are going to need to really focus on making the best of the time that we have, and follow God's precepts as much as possible, because we're a little bit of a disadvantage. Next slide. So this is a slide. I'm going to spend a little time going over this slide, but the take-home message is that at every age, in multiple countries, women death rate is lower than men. The bottom line, if you look on the right, on the left-hand side, you see a 1.0. And then on the x-axis, or across the bottom, you have 0 to 10 years, 11 to 20 years, 21 to 30 years, and it goes up to 90 plus years. That bottom line is women's death rate, and that's being compared to men's death rate. And it's being compared right now, that the highlighted countries are Chile, South Korea, and the United States. Well, what you can see is that in the United States, which is the orange line, first of all, at birth, or from 1 to 10, or 0 to 10 rather, the men's male death rate is about 1.25 times higher than the female death rate. And in the United States, at about 21 years of age, male death rate is about 2.5 times as high as the female death rate. Now, the reason for that, I'm going to go into that because I'm going to go into that right now a little bit, but it's risky behavior, and also the uses of illicit drugs, and kind of chance-taking behavior, accidents. Males seem to get into much more accidents and injury, which cause injury or death, than females do. And so that's why there's a spike there. But then you can see it decreases down, but at all points in all of these countries, once again, the male death rate is higher than the female death rate. Wow. Next slide. This is another slide, and I'm sorry it's kind of small, but what it shows is it compares the heart rate. I'm going to put on my own glasses here. 1 second. It compares the heart disease, cancer, and infectious or parasitic diseases. And it compares people of color, Black, white, Hispanic, and Asian. So there's a lot of information on this slide. But what the slide shows, the blue bar corresponds with the male death rate with regards to, once again, heart disease, cancer, and infectious or parasitic disease. And then the yellow line corresponds to the female death rate. And you can see in all of these instances, once again, the male death rate is significantly higher than the female death rate. And you are also able to compare people of color, or people, African Americans or Black individuals with other races. And you can see that our rate is higher with heart disease and cancer. Infectious or parasitic disease, the Hispanic occurrence is a little bit higher than ours. So there's a lot of information here, but it helps us kind of hone in on why this men's health is significant. And yeah, we need to go to the doctor, and we need we need to one, be encouraged to, and then take it upon ourselves to be responsible for ourselves also. And I want you to know that I'm glad my wife is not in here with me, because she's basically saying, "Who are you talking to?" Meaning, I am not. How can I put it? I'm not spotless here.
Do as I say, but don't do as I do.
Right. That's correct.
But
Next
Dr.
slide.
Wesley, before you
Yes.
move on, I think it's interesting when you were listing some of the reasons, and one of them is that men tend to be more risk takers, so they tend to, find themselves in situations. I mean, not necessarily health related. You know what I mean? Like they're just doing like crazy things. I mean, you know what I mean? Like they're doing adventurous things that could lead to death. Is that what I'm understanding?
But that's not just what you're understanding. That's what the statistics say. I mean, as an ER doc, I can tell you all kinds of stories that I have seen with men getting drunk and falling on a curb. And, I haven't seen any ladies that happen with any ladies. So I just see more unusual things with people of the male persuasion.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
I had to hop on that one. Thanks.
but,
Yes, I did.
But I would also add, well, let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Because statistics says men are at greater risk of dying from, men are at greater risk of dying from COVID-19 than women, a gap that cannot be explained by rates of infection or pre-existing condition. The age-adjusted rate for death from COVID was 140 deaths per 100,000 males and 87.7 for females. So once again, with COVID, which was just two years ago, or men had a higher death rate. More men die from diabetes than women, 31.2 per 100,000 as opposed to 19.5. Next slide. Cancer rate is also higher in males, 135 per 100,000 for women, and the death rate for men is 189.5 per 100,000. And once again, Black men have the highest cancer death rate of 227.3 per 100,000. Black women, the cancer rate is also higher than white women. It's 149 per 100,000. Next slide. Death rate for boys and teens. We talked about this. So boys and teens ages 10 to 19 is 44.5 per 100,000. Far outpaced that for girls, 21.3 per 100,000. And as it mentioned, even among infants, the mortality rate is higher. And then also, men die by suicide 4 times more often than women, based on 2020 data. And the rate of suicide is highest in middle-aged white men, but teen boys also face a high risk. This high suicide rate for middle-aged white men is something that we really need to look at and understand. And this is another discussion, but we're going through some very difficult times right now in our country, and I know we see things from our perspective, but they have a perspective also. They are, I'm not excusing anything. I'm just trying to, because my son actually pointed this out to me, and I'm surprised that I'm talking about this right now. But they have a perspective also, and that is, I don't want to try and voice it, but I wanted us to understand that white males are under stress right now also, and that explains some of the behaviors that they're exhibiting. Next slide.
Yeah, and I think about a lot of the top executives. We see a lot of times those who are in charge and presidents and CEOs of major businesses that may be failing. We hear a lot about sometimes just suicide. They commit suicide to kind of, especially if the company's about to go under or some scandals about to come out. Yeah, makes sense.
Or things change. Things are changing. And they're not handling the change. Anyway, this slide says 72% of motor vehicle crash victims are male. Males are accounted for 71% of pedestrian deaths, 87% of bicyclist deaths, 92% of motorcyclist deaths. So once again, that spike that we talked about earlier, this is dealing with a lot of that. This is addressing addressing that spike that we saw. Next slide.
Wow.
So why the disparity? Why the longevity disparity? There are a number of possible reasons for this. High levels of testosterone, which can weaken the immune system, may be a factor in why men and male mammals in general are more vulnerable to parasitic infections. Estrogen may explain why women have lower rates of heart disease throughout life and why the gap narrows after women reach menopause. Next slide. Cultural expectations, and this is a really big one. Cultural expectations may explain this also. Men are stoic. They may delay care. For instance, although diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and hypertension are common in men and women, men often wait longer to seek care, and the illnesses are diagnosed at later stages, leading to more damage and poorer outcomes. I hesitate, but I'm going to tell this story because it describes this. I had a colleague, great guy, and we had a talk. This is about maybe 10 years ago. We had to make more than that, about 15 years ago. He said to me, Irv, I got some things, health things I need to take care of, and I just need to, and I'm going to. It's just I got so many things going on, but I'm doing okay. And he without going into too much detail, this is a physician who worked at Washington Adventist Hospital when I was there, passed away. I'll never forget that. And when I say preaching to the choir and all that stuff, it's not we all have this struggle. So men are also known to engage in more risky behaviors such as drug and alcohol use, smoking, and reckless driving. While the reasons behind these trends aren't fully understood, behavioral risks are also a reason men's health doesn't get studied. Next slide. This is actually a measurement of the disparity. Fewer doctors' visits. An oft-cited concern is that men are less likely to visit the doctor. Although boys and girls visit the pediatrician at the same rate, the trend changes in adulthood, and medical visits by men decline. CDC data shows that physician visit rate in 2018 among females was almost 40% higher than in women than men. And research suggests that women still are twice as likely as men to schedule regular annual exams and use of preventative services. And I want you to understand, these are two different things. Men will go to the doctor, but they'll go to the doctor because they broke their hand, they hurt their hand, they twisted their ankle, they need a pill, quote unquote, or something like that. But as far as scheduling regular exams and preventative appointments and routine checkups to make sure everything's okay, we do not do as well as our female counterparts. Next slide.
Well, Dr. Westney, before we move on, I kind of want to, since we have some men on our crew here, I want to kind of check in with them right now. Do you find that to be true, men on our panel? Do you do your regular doctor visits? I'm not trying to call anyone out, but I'm Pat disappeared.
I can start by telling you I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm part of the problem. And it's part of our man. You take care of everything else first. That's what ends up happening. And the problem is, if you are not able to do what you do, you cannot function as the priest of the home. You cannot, your family will suffer if you are not functioning.
That's right.
So it's important, it's necessary for us to go outside of the norm. And I'm sorry, you asked the question to the panel.
No, but you started off. You gave them a little time to get their thoughts together.
Doc, I'm right. I didn't need the time. I knew exactly. Sometimes I'm going to say it's fear. is fear of knowing that something is wrong, or even though, my goodness, it might be something small. You know, sometimes I know sometimes I make something bigger than what it is, you know. So I'll give you something really small, like if I feel like a blurred vision or something like that, I went to
Eye doctor.
the eye doctor, and they said you need to wear these glasses. And I literally don't keep them on, you know, because I'm telling myself that if I keep them on, then I'm telling myself something is wrong with my eyes. Then you make it so like a catastrophe, because your parents have glaucoma, your aunts have glaucoma, and I'm using something small. I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about your eyesight. I tend to make it bigger than what it is, so I have more fear of going to find out what it is, more than to sit back and say, "Hey, you know, it must have been something I ate."
How about you, Charles?
Yeah, I'm not very good at that. As you say, Dr. Westney. I think it's just inherent in a lot of us to not do this thing annually, but go when something hurts.
Right.
And I have gone when something hurts, but no, I don't make it a regular thing. Of course, we do our annual blood tests, things like that are administered here in the office to kind of at least give us some markers or some signs that maybe something is going wrong when you get your tests back, but that's about the extent of it. But there are a lot of reasons. It's not just men being hard-headed. I think there are other reasons why, and I can say for one of my reasons is a trust factor. Because I've had some bad experiences in doctors' offices and in hospitals. For me, I'm just speaking for me, I have some trust issues with the mainstream medical establishment right now, and maybe others don't have that problem. I do think, you know, if you have an accident, of course you need to go in and get acute care in emergency rooms and things like that. Naturally, you would do that. But to answer your question, I'm not very good on the annual thing.
Me either.
GP?
Yeah, I feel like I was a lot better when I was younger, in my 20s. I have not consistently gotten an annual exam every year. For example, since 2021, I have not gone to see a doctor, but I did get my annual blood screening, like Chuck mentioned.
Right.
So I need to tighten up. I need to find the best Black doctors in Virginia that are here and sign up and schedule and make it happen.
And Rodney confessed that it's his wife that schedules his exams, or he really wouldn't do it. And I know that's the case for a lot. If someone's not on you to do it, you may let it slip. All right. Sorry, Dr. Weston. I was just curious about how those statistics fared with our group
But
here.
could you check Anthony? Anthony said there's a belief that
yes, I did say that. There's a belief that real men
complain. And I think that's part of it also. You don't want to seem like a worrywart or to worry about it. So I resonate with Anthony also.
Absolutely. All right, Dr. Weston, I'm sorry. Next slide.
I just wanted to comment one thing. I do think that it is important for there to be trust and respect exhibited to patients, to the community, from the medical establishment. And, you know, that's a very big discussion, but it starts with appropriate representation on all levels. And, you know, and this is in response to what Chuck said with regards to the trust factor, and the fact that, you know, anyone would have a negative experience is a very unfortunate thing. And I think it's something that, you know, as a society, we need to think about and rectify.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to throw a text in here, a knowledge of God. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear and to my sayings, let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. I think, you know, a knowledge of God. We're going to talk about disease entities that exist in various age groups. We've already talked about the 20, the younger age group. We're going to talk about some others at this point, but I want to say it's my belief that a knowledge of God is first and foremost in helping us respect these bodies that God created us with, and to care for them appropriately. So this is an admonishment for us to remember where we have come from and remember where we are going. Next slide. And so once again, we're going to deal with the different age groups now and what to consider during different age groups. And we see 3 generations here. Go ahead, next slide. So in the childhood years, things to consider: injuries, asthma, anxiety, alcohol and drug abuse. And the injuries really is accidents really that we talked about before. Men's health problems in their 20s, autoimmune or immune system disorders, and like lupus and various connective tissue disorders, rheumatoid arthritis, sexually transmitted disease, injuries again, alcohol, drug, and tobacco use, which we have talked about, I'm sure, before. But, you know, once again, as an ER doc, I just wish I could, you know, I try to express whenever I speak to anyone about how unfortunate, you know, alcohol and drug use and tobacco usage is, and it's so preventable. And the problem is, you know, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but it's an unfortunate thing because it just didn't have to occur. But anyway, skipping physical exams, we're talking about the 20s, poor diet. Then men's problems through the 30s through the 50s, elevated cholesterol, stress-related issues, high blood pressure. After 50, colon cancer, prostatic cancer, and heart disease. Let's go to the next slide. So we're going to talk about hypertension for a moment. Hypertension, the incidence of hypertension, this is something that is not a common known fact, and that is its incidence increases with age. So you can see from age 20 to 24, 28% of people experience hypertension. 35 to 44, it goes up to 47%. 45 to 54, 59%, all the way up to greater than 75, 82%. Sometimes, you know, I have patients who ask, well, why did I get it now? You know, and the answer is, you know, as your body gets older, the elasticity of the vessels, you know, decreases, the amount of cholesterol and deposits increases, and therefore, you know, as you get older, your susceptibility to developing hypertension increases. Next slide. And just very quickly, normal blood pressure is less than 120 over 80. Hypertension stage 1, borderline, is 130 to 139 over 80 to 89. True hypertension is 140 over 90. Severe hypertension, 180 over 120. And next slide.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking at this, Dr. Westney, and I'm thinking a lot of people, it's good to have these numbers, but if you're not checking it to know that you fall in one of those categories,
right?
You know, you won't know until something drastic happens and they let you know. So
yeah, and you know, the thing about that is there are a lot of the blood pressure cuffs. They sell blood pressure cuffs now at Costco. I'm sorry, that sounds like I'm pushing Costco. I don't own Costco stock, but they're very good. They are extremely good, and they you know, you just put them on and they're very accurate. And they're not that, well, not that expensive, maybe $30, but it's a very good investment to monitor your blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So the important thing is hypertension is a silent killer. You can often have no symptoms at all, but it can cause heart attack or be associated with heart attack, stroke, heart failure, kidney disease and or failure, vision loss, sexual dysfunction, angina, which is coronary artery disease, or heart, chest pain from insufficiency or poor blood flow, and peripheral vascular disease. Next slide. So things that could be done. This slide really goes for the next topic, which we're going to talk about, which is heart disease. But what can you do to what things can you change? Some things you can't change, but what you can change: no smoking, or stop smoking. Why smoking? The chemicals in smoke cause vasoconstriction, and there are a number of just toxic chemicals that are emitted, including cyanide, with just plain cigarette smoke. So it's just something that you don't know, in addition to the damage that it does to your lungs. Losing weight, eating a healthy diet, exercising daily. And when I say exercising, low impact exercise, walking. If you're sore after exercising, it means you're probably not going to exercise tomorrow. Okay. So some people say, 3 or 4 times a week, that's fine, but low impact, something that you can do and enjoy, and it doesn't cause you to feel, completely worn out the next day, or, the next, shortly thereafter. Reducing sodium intake and limiting alcohol consumption. Next slide. Heart disease. Men are twice as likely as women to experience a heart attack at some point in their lives. Speaking to the severity of heart disease in men compared to women, a large population study found that men are 17% higher to experience death from cardiovascular causes as opposed to women. Next slide. So this is a very important slide, and I want to, because heart disease, you do those life changes, but as you get older, some people are gonna experience heart conditions, and we call it unstable angina or coronary insufficiency, not enough blood flow to the heart through the heart veins. What are the symptoms of cardiac disease? I'm going to go through these very quickly. Chest pain, chest tightening, pain during exertion, random pain during exertion especially. Everyone has pain, but if it's associated with exertion, be concerned. Sometimes you can get referred pain, aching in your jaw, pain in your shoulder, discomfort. If it happens every time you are exerting yourself, then you need to be checked. Heartburn, indigestion, profuse sweating. Now, everybody sweats. When you find that you're sweating, outside of what you would expect, you would normally expect, or you're sweating under a lower level of exertion, and it's a change in your normal pattern, you need to be concerned and it needs to be checked. Lightheadedness, shortness of breath, nausea, and vomiting. Next slide. Are there any questions regarding this? I don't want to rush through too fast, but this is very important. I want to make sure everyone gets this.
No questions, but I think all the men listening right now need to pause and just take 3 deep breaths. This is good stuff.
No, but I was looking at this list, and so many of the things on here, I can see, even as women, you brush it off. Oh, I feel a little lightheaded. Oh, maybe I didn't eat enough this morning. We make an excuse for why we may be feeling these things.
Right.
And
what I'd like to say to you, I'm not suggesting that you run to the doctor or to the emergency department every time you experience any of these. Right. What I'm saying is, if you see a pattern, and especially if they're associated with exertion, that is, as you know, as an ER doc, it's my job to figure out who's at risk, who can I send home, and who can I not. And what I use to help me figure who's a real risk is there an exertional association with these symptoms? That is very big for me, and that's what I want to convey to the audience, to everyone. Next slide. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms to a significant degree, consult your physician or go to the emergency department for further evaluation. There are diagnostic tests and definitive treatment for heart disease which can prolong your productive life. This is why it's so important for these symptoms to be known so that early detection can occur. In the ER, we can measure something called troponin, which is an enzyme which the heart gives off when it is injured. Okay, so when you're losing a few cells, those cells lyse and it gives off troponin, and the troponin is measured. And if it's elevated, we know we need to do more diagnostics with that patient. We do EKGs. We do something called stress testing, which is a patient is hooked up to an EKG and they're walked on a treadmill. Sometimes they'll do a diagnostic radiological study, a CT, or a nuclear medicine study to look and see if there's any areas of ischemia or poor blood flow. Cardiac catheterization and cardiac stents and bypass. These are all things that can be done. The idea now is that people don't get full-fledged heart attacks. We are able to diagnose partial occlusion of a vessel, and we can, when I say we, the cardiologists can manage it using cardiac catheterization and cardiac stents, so that you don't lose that heart muscle, and so the person doesn't. If you lose the heart muscle, it doesn't regenerate, and so it's necessary to diagnose these things early. So if someone's experiencing the symptoms of the previous slide and it's associated with exertion, I encourage you to call your doctor. It depends on how serious it is, and one of the other things I would say is people need to know themselves and really listen to their bodies and recognize when things change. And that's another thing that we do. A lot of times these changes occur very slowly, and so it's difficult to sometimes to figure it out. But I'm taking more time with this because it's so important, and I want to make sure that everyone gets a good feel for what I'm describing here. Okay. Thank you. Lifestyle changes, obesity. Obesity exists also, and you can see the prevalence throughout various age groups. It does seem to go down a little bit as people get older. Next slide. Cancer. Latasha, it looks like I'm not going to have enough to get through all of these. I could summarize real quick.
Sure.
Because is 7 a hard stop, or?
No, it's not a hard stop, but
okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll go ahead. Am I okay, team? Am I okay?
Yes, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
You'll be taking questions at any given point.
Yeah, anytime. If anyone has any questions.
Questions are stacking up here.
Okay. Well, I'm okay. Well, okay.
Well, do you want to? Well, I have several. I'd like for you to speak on correlation between preventive measures. That's one. Is a man's diet talked about within the lifestyle change? What kind of foods are we eating? How many pizzas do we eat? How many cheese crackers do we eat? What is our daily lifestyle, and why are we trending to talk about that as a preventive measure, even from the physician's point of view? And in conjunction with that, how many physicians are prepared to talk about nutrition when the patients come in? Because there are some problems that are attributed to our lifestyle and the foods that we eat. Another correlation I'd like for you to comment on is there are some men who do not get go to the hospital or go to their primary physician because they're in a position where they cannot afford it. So I think there's some other correlations that affect these numbers that tell the story of what men do and do not do. I know that there seems to be some trending towards functional medicine, and that's you're a physician. I'm pretty sure you know what that is. There seems to be a different approach when someone comes in and talks about an ailment. They try to draw a correlation between their lifestyle, not their risky life, the Tom Cruise lifestyle. I'm just saying that there are some things let me give you just one example. My mother-in-law, Dr. Bethany Jackson, one of her specialties was, of course, nutrition. She served in a hospital for a brief period of time, and she would go around to various rooms and patients and talk to people who had certain types of diseases. She related a story to me once where she was given a patient to visit who was a truck driver.
Stop sharing.
And he had heart issues. He had all blood pressure, you name it, he had it. And she simply asked him, she said, well, what is your daily routine for a diet? Do you cook? What do you do? It's fast food 3 times a day. He's a cross-country truck driver. He doesn't have any time to fix anything. He just goes to McDonald's or Wendy's. And it turned out that his diet, she concluded that his diet was the major reason why he was lying in that hospital bed. He was not eating well at all and had been eating that way for years, as a truck driver. They get what they can get, fast food, whatever. And so, can you speak on education about men's lifestyle as it pertains to food, drinking water? I mean, these are simple things. I mean, I know we're in a society where we'd like to have a pill for everything, but sometimes we can prevent a lot of these things by lifestyle changes. And then one more thing, and I forget to answer them all. I think there might be also a correlation with how we were raised as children, as young boys. There's certain things we ate that we shouldn't have. I look back on my school year, like high school. I mean, I ate terrible. But when I got home, my mother always prepared a really nice meal for us. But when I was out in school, I was glazed donuts, chocolate milk, you know what I mean? Wherever I can get the sweet stuff. And not realizing, and now since I've, studied this, a lot of people are being their health is adversely affected by diet. So can you speak to that?
Certainly. First of all, I couldn't agree with you more. Can I call you Chuck? That's what's on the
Absolutely.
Okay. I couldn't agree with you more. I haven't gotten to that part of the talk yet, but I'm going to skip. I'm going to skip over. What I will say is, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer. We were going to talk about screening for those, and encourage men. Those are cancers which are preventable, or not preventable, but can be detected early. And so there are screening mechanisms for that. But I was going to talk about diabetes, and this talks directly to what you're describing or talking about. First of all, I want to say, as far as what we eat, let me just say this about diabetes, because I think it helps us to get to where we need to be. The incidence of diabetes in this country, adult onset diabetes, is increasing. It used to be about 6%, and now it was about 9%. I have a slide that shows that, but it's about 12% now. It's significantly increased over the last 10 years. Okay. And that is primarily dietary issues. Okay. That is causing that, in my belief. As far as what lifestyle changes and what should we be eating, we should be eating fruits, vegetables, and non-processed foods. And unfortunately, that is not the American way. It's not. There's a fast food place on every corner, and if you travel, to other countries, although the United States, and you can find McDonald's pretty much anywhere
You're
now.
right. I was just going to say that.
It's
You
just
go to
not
other
the-
cultures, and it looks like their statistics are starting to look like ours
That's correct.
because of the Western diet.
Yes. So, the Garden of Eden diet, plenty of water. The other thing is the high glucose containing drinks,
Right.
that are all, it's just pervades our society. There's a lot of water that's available, but there's also, all these energy drinks and, coffees and that have a lot of glucose in them. I'm not talking about black coffee. I'm talking about, and so, as a result, the diabetes, the diabetes is a case study in what's happening in our society. There's an increase in the level of adult onset diabetes that's measurable. Millions more people have adult onset diabetes now than was the case 10 years ago. So I agree with what you're saying. There's another point I want to make about diabetes. The other thing I wanted to say about diabetes, because we're coming up on 7 o'clock, I just wanted to say that, so one of the way we measure diabetes, or we follow diabetes to figure out, some people say, oh, you check the fasting glucose, but no, it's the hemoglobin A1C that is measured. And what does that measure? That measures the percentage of red blood cells in your body that is circulating glycosylated red blood cells. Your red blood cells last for about 3 months. And so if the percentage is greater than 5.7, you are anything less than 5.7, you're okay. 5.7 to 6.5% of those red blood cells, you are in borderline, and anything above 6.5, you're quote a diabetic, adult onset diabetic most likely. Well, that's just measuring that test is measuring the glycosylated red blood cells that are circulating around. But that glucose also has an effect on your end organs. Okay. And it causes problems with your end organs, with your nervous system, with your kidneys, and with your heart. And that's what we're finding out now. So this glucose is a toxin, really, that we are overdosing on as a society.
Right.
And so I'll kind of leave it at that. But I agree completely with what
I know.
We are what we eat and drink.
Right. I appreciate your breaking that down. And I'll tell you, ever since I've been on my own journey for about maybe 18 months, making some major dietary changes, without the intention of really losing weight, although a lot of people say, well, I got to eat better to lose weight. But I found that weight loss came automatically when I made the lifestyle change with diet. We'll probably do it in another show, but I would like to get your spin on the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry and what parts they're playing or not playing in men's health. But that's another show. But thank you for your response on that, because I think that the whole diet connection is very important, because a lot of things can be prevented if we just eat real food.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And, on the other side of that too, because this made me think about some people, growing up who, to me, they were the epitome of New Start. Like, they were vegans, they did everything right. And they contracted cancer. And I remember being so upset. Like these were my, heroes. These were the people I was looking up to. They were doing everything right. They were leading a healthy lifestyle. But unfortunately, they still, contracted this horrible disease. And I said to myself, I wonder sometimes if they had you know, even though they were doing a healthy lifestyle and they thought that was sufficient, they thought that was enough. You know what I mean? They didn't necessarily think they needed to go to the doctor because they were back to Eden. You know what I'm saying? So I think, and I don't know if you can speak to that, Dr. Westney, the balance. You know, just because you're doing the right things, going to the doctor is still necessary as well. I mean, I just want to throw that out there.
Well, what I can say, you know, I'm going to say this carefully. The practice of medicine is not perfect, but there's some things that, you know, we do better than others.
Mm-hmm.
Preventing or diagnosing colorectal cancer. You know, if you detect colorectal cancer, you know, the Wakanda actor, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name, but you know,
Chadwick
he's gone.
Boseman.
Yeah, Chadwick is gone.
Right.
And you know, it's possibly could have been preventable if, you know, he was young though. He was younger than, but you know, if he had a colonoscopy and that polyp had been removed, you know, maybe he'd still be with us. So what I'm pushing for is for, you know, in the example of the heart situation, if you're having symptoms and it's recognized and you have vascular insufficiency in your heart, you know, you can get productive life. You know, you can save a full heart attack and allow yourself to continue to function, you know, moving forward. So there are certain prescribed things that require regular visits. And does this mean that, you know, all the bases are covered? No, they're not all covered. But, you know, what you do is the best you can. Some people are dealt a bad hand.
Right.
And I don't want to say a bad hand, but an unfortunate hand. And, you know, it's not anybody's fault. It's just, you know, how it happened, and God will, you know, I believe God, our creator, will make it right, you know, in the end. I believe that. So your friend, you know, who, you know, did everything right, you know, I can't say, I can't fix it, you know.
Right.
But what I can say is we got to do the best we can with what we're dealt with.
Right. Right. And I think that's kind of summarizes everything that we're talking about in terms of do what you can do. You can go to the doctor. You can eat healthy. You can exercise. You can, I mean, even though I know Charles brought up the point about for some people, there's an inability to go to the doctor based on circumstances, whether it's financial or access. But even with those, there are programs, clinics that take it. You know, my thing is don't let anything stop you from prioritizing your health. Go ahead, Dr. Westney.
I'll say one thing, and that is the Affordable Health Care Act. It's a very significant thing, and it's something that allows people who are, you know, 18 to 65 to gain health insurance at an affordable rate. And I think, although you know, there are a lot of people who are not, you know, who don't see it as significant, it is very significant. And it, you know, I would encourage, if anyone can afford it, one, to try and get help with your social services to maximize what's available out there. But two, you know, try to sign up for that if you can.
Okay, thank you. That's a great tip. That's a great tip. Well, you know, I know I'm the only woman on here trying to say, man, go to the doctors, get to take care of yourselves. But I mean, it's really important. Like I said in the beginning, we need you guys. We need you around. We need you healthy. We depend on you. No pressure, but we do want to see you healthy.
Who else is going to run the bulldozers and the cranes? Need us.
Yeah. And like Rodney summarized, he said, in other words, men get our tails to the doctor on a regular basis. So I'm hoping that's becoming the thing that's reverberating in your minds right now. Let me go ahead and schedule my checkup, my follow-up appointments annually.
Yeah, and Nick Taliaferro is driving and on YouTube
yes.
at the same time. That's risky behavior.
Yeah, Tally's on the road. We miss you, Tally. But thank you, Dr. Westney. I know we didn't get through everything that you had to share with us, but I think you definitely shared enough to really help men and the women in their lives understand the importance of taking care of yourself and some of those signs to look for. I'm glad that you made that point about exertion. Look at these things, particularly when exertion has taken place. So thank you for that. Great information. And thank you for those in the chat. I know we have some doctors in the chat and others in the chat who were sharing things, and we really appreciate your comments as well. But so, guys, you know what to do.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Westney. I'm about to go jump rope after this ends.
Remember, don't overdo it, GP. We want you to be able to stand up in the morning.
Yes.
Well, I do resistance bands daily.
Okay, good.
It's starting to show. I went to the post office and the young lady said, "Oh, you're buffing up there?" I'm like, really?
It's like, oh, you noticed?
Yeah, but that, at least having some kind of daily routine. I mean, I actually have it on my calendar.
Oh.
The exercise that I need to do every day, and it pops up as a reminder. So just trying to get into something that's second nature, just automatic.
Yep.
You know how you get into the routine of something and you get to the end of the day and you haven't done that one thing and you kind of feel like, well, something's not right. It's something I didn't do today. It really should be at that level, so that you're doing it, doing it every day. There's a lot of responsibility that we have to take care of. We can go get checks and go to the doctor, but if we're still coming to the doctor saying that we're going to Wendy's 3 times a day, there's a problem with it. Okay.
Right.
Because we have a tendency to want a pill. Can you give me a pill for this?
Just make it go away. Make it stop. Yeah.
Right. Sometimes the pill is a really nice dinner salad,
And one thing our health director would say, Dr. Metley, is that it has to be holistic. So as you're taking care of your health, I know I saw some of the other things in mental health, not just physical, mental health, all of those things have to be factored in there as well. So, all right, I think we could talk about men's health for a long time, but we do have to wrap up this evening. Like I said, thank you so much, Dr. Westney, for all the great knowledge that you shared.
Thank you.
And, to our churches, your men's ministry, health ministries, come on, let's create programs that can help hold our men accountable, or let's say encourage them instead of encourage them. And men, hold each other accountable, check out, ask your boy, hey, when's the last time you've been, and all of that stuff that helps. Rodney said, can the women get beat up next week?
On Father's Day weekend?
Yeah,
Come on,
I was just going to ask, when is Women's Health Month? When is that?
Well,
I think it's October.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but based on these statistics, this isn't really important. To emphasize this, but I hope you guys understand it's all out of love. We care about you, and like I said, we want to see you around for a long time. Before we go, very quickly, I have been talking about the fact that those who have been patronizing our UpSet store, once again, thank you. Our goal is to raise money for individuals or situations that may be upsetting, and we wanted to be able to donate to those causes, and we did receive a cause that we will give our first installment to. I'm not going to read all of it, but it's pretty much about for a young man who attended our G. Peters School. Unfortunately, sometime after COVID, he learned that his mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And unfortunately, she did pass away. He is desirous of continuing his Adventist Christian education and would like to attend Pine Forge Academy next year. And so when we saw this story, when it was presented to us, we knew that this was the cause, our first cause that we wanted to donate to. And so we are going to be donating this to Nathaniel, is his name, to Nathaniel This is $400, but we did say if anyone wants to match that, we know Pine Forge Academy is more expensive than $400. So if anyone wants to match that or donate to that cause for Nathaniel, please do so. Let us know and we can show you how that can be done. But we just want to thank those who have purchased and donated to this cause. Just letting you know that the first installment is out. One other quick announcement. I'm sorry, camp meeting is coming up. Some of you have wanted to get the UpSet gear, didn't know how to do it. Well, guess what? If you're coming to camp meeting, you can prepay for your UpSet gear and just pick it up when you roll through over our camp meeting weekend. So if you'd like to do that, you can actually order right on our website. Visit aac.org/UpSet. You'll see it there. You'll see the option to pick up at camp meeting. So you can place your order, pay in advance. We'll have your items ready for you when you arrive on the grounds, either June 30th or July 1st. All right. I think I'm done with all my announcements, guys. Sorry. All right. Once again, thanks for joining us. Once again, thank you, Dr. Westney. We really appreciated you. Thank you for everyone listening. We'll see you back here next Sunday, 6 p.m. Because if it's Sunday,
it's the UpSet podcast.
Day after Saturday. I had to put that in for Nick.
Yeah, I know. I understand. Yeah. That's what friends are for, right? All right, guys. Have a great week, everybody.